Hey guys, Steven here from Adolescence. Thank you so much for tuning in. As you can tell from the title down below, today I'm going to be sharing with you the top 10 most complimented fragrances in my collection as of the year 2014. I have been putting this list together for a while now, and I'm happy to finally be able to introduce these fragrances to you, really share this list, and hopefully you guys have smelled or owned some of these fragrances and I can get your feedback and you can tell me if you've gotten just as many compliments on these fragrances as I have. Now, I don't want to waste too much time with this list, but I do want to mention three things before I move on. The first thing that I want to mention is that the fragrances on this list are ranked according to their success rate or their batting average, if you will, not necessarily the number of compliments that I have received wearing them. So for example, say I've worn a certain fragrance out in public 5 times, but I've gotten complimented on it 4 out of those 5 times. That fragrance will likely be higher up on the list as opposed to a fragrance that I've gotten complimented on, say, 15 times in public, but I've worn it 50 or 70 times in public. That fragrance will likely be a little bit lower on the list or maybe not even on the list. So just keep that in mind. Now, of course, I don't actually write down or document how many times I've worn a specific fragrance in public. So I kind of just go by, you know, the recollection of my memory and the level of the juice in the bottle. So that's the first thing that I want to get out there. The second thing that I want to mention is that the fragrances in this list are fragrances that I have personally received compliments on. And you receiving compliments all depends on, you know, the people you know, the people with whom you associate yourself, your context, the situation, the scenarios, the background. All of that will directly influence whether or not you receive a compliment wearing a fragrance. So I may get complimented, you know, on these fragrances. You might wear that same fragrance. You might go out there and not get any compliments. So it really all depends on the people, you know, your approachability, how you present yourself, the context, the background, what you do for a living. All that will directly influence whether or not you receive a compliment. So consequently, you might get complimented on a fragrance that I might never get complimented on, and it really all depends on the context. The third thing that I want to mention is that fragrances are an accessory. So merely wearing these fragrances will not be enough to get you a compliment. And the reason I mention that is because I have personally had experiences in which I've worn a fragrance, never got complimented on it, totally revamped my appearance, and that same fragrance that I did not get a compliment on, all of a sudden now people are complimenting me on it. So, you know, you might wear the #1 fragrance on my list, but say if you go to a party and the whole time you're sitting in the corner of the room and you have your head down, blank look on your face, you're pretending to text your friend because you don't want to associate or socialize with anyone, you know, that directly, you know, decreases your approachability, and the likelihood that somebody will come up to you and compliment you is slim to none. So I just want you to keep that in the back of your mind. So it's about having a little confidence. If you don't have it, fake it. You know, go out there, be approachable, be sociable, have a smile on your face, and that will directly influence whether or not people find you approachable and whether or not people feel comfortable coming up to you and actually complimenting you on your fragrance. I know certainly there have been many times I wanted to go up to girls and compliment them on the way that they smelled, but it looked like they were busy or they were talking to somebody or they were engaged in some other activity, so I said let me not bother them. So just keep that in the back of your mind. It's kind of like wearing a silk tie. You know, you can wear a beautiful silk tie, brand name, very expensive, intricately woven fabric, but if you're wearing it with a t-shirt, nobody's going to compliment you on how nice your tie looks. They're just going to think you look like a clown, right? So I just want you to keep that in the back of your mind. It's the man that makes the fragrance and not the other way around. So with that being said, these are the top 10 most complimented fragrances in my list. Please let me know if you own or have smelled any of these. And again, please don't forget to subscribe for future videos and frequent giveaways. So there are 3 ways that I'm going to do this. First, I am going to share the most memorable compliment that I have received wearing that fragrance. Then I'm going to reveal or disclose the fragrance. And lastly, I'm going to tell you what I think about it. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Let's get on to the list. Okay, so here are my top 10 most complimented fragrances for the year of 2014. I do have 2 honorable mentions, and they are Luna Rossa by Prada and Armani Code by Giorgio Armani. It seems like almost every time I wear these, somebody comes up to me, tells me how good I smell, and they just love the way that these fragrances smell. Very easy to wear, very versatile, and it seems like I always get a compliment wearing them. So Luna Rossa by Prada, Armani Code by Giorgio Armani. Now, number 10 on my list is a fragrance that, again, I get complimented on it very often. It's actually one of my girlfriend's favorite fragrances on me. This is a fragrance that one day I was going around and I was helping her, or she was helping me rather, sample different fragrances and just give me her opinion on it. You know, just tell me what does she think about certain fragrances. And I remember spraying this one, giving it to her, and she goes, wow, this is what a real man should smell like. This is what I want you to smell like all the time. And it seems like every time I go out in public, I get complimented wearing this fragrance. Number 10, I know this house has received a lot of hate lately because of the direction that they've been heading in, but this is from the house of Gucci, and it's called Gucci Guilty Black. So this is when, you know, Tom Ford's no longer the creative director. Frida Giannini, I think, stepped up, and she stepped up to the plate. She became the new creative director. But, you know, this fragrance is a great fragrance. I get complimented on it. It's that spicy coriander introduction, and then it has that nice, really nice dry down of woods. It doesn't come across overly natural, but very versatile, high compliment factor. I always get complimented on it when I wear it. So number 10, Gucci Guilty Black. Number 9 on this list is a fragrance that I used to wear to my old job when I used to work at a hardware store. I used to work at a paint dealer, and at that job I wore this fragrance, I want to say, nearly every day. I remember one day I had a client come in and she wanted to order a few gallons of paint. So she comes up to me and she goes, I would like to place a paint order. And I say, all right, sure. May I ask you a few questions about your project? And then she goes, yeah, you may, but before you do, I have to say, I love a man who smells good for work. And that's probably the most memorable compliment that I've received from my number 9, excuse me. So number 9 on this list is from the house of Yves Saint Laurent, and it's called L'Homme. Beautiful fragrance. It has that like ginger, spicy introduction. Some people say it smells like apple. It does have somewhat of a fruity feel. I'm sure there are fruity notes contained in it, just not disclosed, and then it dries down to this nice vanillic, almost resinous dry down, but it's really nice, spicy, fresh, and it comes across very clean and inoffensive, high compliment factor. So number 9 on my list, L'Homme by Yves Saint Laurent. Number 8 on my list is a fragrance that I cannot recall one particular compliment that I've received wearing this fragrance, but it seems like every time I go out in public, people say, you smell good. What are you wearing? You know, where can I buy that? What's the name of your fragrance? You know, who smells so good? You know, I always get a compliment wearing this fragrance, and I know of other people who have also gotten many compliments wearing this fragrance. This one is not going to come as a surprise to many people. It's from the house of Chanel, and this fragrance is called Bleu de Chanel. Great fragrance, incense, grapefruit, some woods in the dry down, masculine, contemporary at the same time, reputable house, and a high compliment factor. So number 8 on my list, Bleu de Chanel from the house of Chanel. Now number 7 on my list is one that I have a pretty funny story attached to it. One day I was with my girlfriend and I was going to Qdoba, which is kind of like a Chipotle, which is like a self-serve Mexican restaurant, and we were waiting in line and we were getting ready to place our order. So my girlfriend goes up first to place her order, and the lady who's working behind the counter goes, wow, what perfume are you wearing? It smells so good. I've never smelled anything like that before. And my girlfriend is thinking to herself like, what perfume am I wearing? And she doesn't have a really good memory, and she doesn't really know, you know, the fragrances that she wears. So she usually just turns to me, and that's what she did that day. She turned to me and she goes, babe, what perfume did I put on this morning? And I'm like, today you're wearing Be Delicious by DKNY. So then she turns to the lady, she goes, oh yeah, I'm wearing DKNY's Be Delicious. It looks like an apple. It's in a green bottle. And the lady's like, wow, that's a great fragrance. I have to go out there and buy it. I've never smelled anything like that. And my girlfriend's like, thank you, you know, receiving the compliment and everything. We get our food, we sit down, and then I'm thinking to myself, I don't really smell your Be Delicious on you. And I go, babe, what time did you apply that fragrance? She goes, you know, 6 o'clock in the morning when I was getting ready for work. And all of a sudden, I just busted out laughing because I knew exactly what was going on. She wasn't actually complimenting my girlfriend on her fragrance. She thought that she was the one wearing the fragrance when it was actually me who was wearing the fragrance. And the fragrance that I was wearing that day was from the house of Serge Lutens, and it's called Chergui. So this is a beautiful amber interpretation of a fragrance. It contains the note of hay, very unusual, very cozy. It's supposed to represent the Moroccan desert air. Beautiful fragrance, and it has this dry kind of a feel to it. So I would definitely recommend you check it out. So number 10987 on my list, Chergui from the house of Serge Lutens. So number 6 on my list is a fragrance that I used to wear a lot when I was in college. And I remember wearing this fragrance one day, and I was running late for school. I specifically remember that. It was, I think, a lesbian and gay literature class, and I was running a little bit late for class that day, and I walked into the classroom, and I'm trying to very, very surreptitiously, very covertly make my way to my seat so nobody sees me, and as soon as I walked past this girl, I guess she got a whiff of whatever I was wearing, and then she, right out loud, while the professor is lecturing and everything, she goes, "What cologne are you wearing?" And I'm like, oh my god, like I got really scared. So I told her what I was wearing. She goes, "That smells so good." And I'm like, okay, thank you for putting me on the spot. You know, it was kind of like a, not a backhanded compliment, but you know, it kind of got me in trouble a little bit. This is from the house of Ralph Lauren, and this fragrance is called Polo Double Black. This is a great mango-based fragrance, very contemporary. You can wear it on a night out, you can wear it dressed up, dressed down, very versatile, high compliment factor, great fragrance. Number 6 on my list from the house of Ralph Lauren is called Polo Double Black. Make sure you check it out. So these are the 5 most complimented fragrances on my list. Very happy to be sharing these fragrances with you today. Number 5 on my list is a fragrance that I was wearing one day, and I've gotten many, many compliments with this one, but I specifically remember wearing this fragrance one day when I was at my school's library and I was studying for a final exam. So I got together with another one of my classmates, a female classmate, and I was in the library and we were studying for our post-colonial literature final exam. And she and I were just kind of, you know, studying for the final exam, and we were sitting on the second floor in one of the tables in the corner, and we were together for like an hour and a half. She didn't say anything about my fragrance to me, and we were wrapping it up. We got done, and we were both walking and making our way to the exterior, or outside basically by the front gate, and we were getting ready to split up. I was getting ready to walk home. I only live about 20 minutes away, like a 20-minute walk, and she was getting ready to get in her car. So we were saying goodbyes, and before we actually, you know, parted ways, she goes, "I've been meaning to ask you this the whole time." And I go, "Yeah, sure." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Can you just tell me what cologne are you wearing?" And then I told her what I was wearing, and she goes, "Okay, if I had a boyfriend, that's what I would want him to smell like." So yeah, I've gotten a lot of compliments wearing this fragrance, definitely high up on my list. So number 5, another fragrance from the house of Yves Saint Laurent, and this one is called La Nuit de l'Homme. She was a little bit older, I'm not gonna lie. This is a fragrance that definitely attracts the older ladies, so keep that in the back of your mind. This is a cardamom based fragrance. It does come across a little bit powdery, but it's very sophisticated, and it certainly does have like this masculine, playful appeal to it. So make sure you check it out. La Nuit de l'Homme from the house of Yves Saint Laurent. Number 4 on my list is a fragrance that it's the opposite. You know, this attracts the older ladies, this one attracts the younger ladies. I was wearing it one day when I was at TJ Maxx, and I always go to TJ Maxx to buy fragrances. And on this one day, I think I bought Brooks Brothers Red or Black Fleece Red, something like that. That's not the fragrance, by the way. That's actually a really bad fragrance. I would not recommend you buy that one. But that's the fragrance that I went to buy. It was just really cheap, so I ended up buying it. And I was getting ready to pay for my purchase when she takes it out of the plastic security container in which it was enclosed, and then she holds the box up, which is wrapped in plastic and everything. She holds it up to her nose and she starts smelling it. So I'm looking at her in kind of like a weird way, and she's like very young, attractive, Hispanic lady with long black hair, just very cute, very adorable, and she's smelling it, and I'm thinking to myself, and I said this out loud, I'm like, "Is everything okay?" She goes, "Yeah, I just think this is leaking because I can smell perfume and it smells very good." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm wearing something right now, you might just be smelling me." And she goes, "Oh my god, what are you wearing?" So I told her what I was wearing, and I was wearing it on the back of my hand, so I put my hand up so she can smell it, and she goes, "Wow, that smells so good." And she just grabbed my hand and she took like a really deep lungful, and I can tell she really, really liked what she was smelling. And she goes, "You have to write that down for me." So she printed out a receipt, a blank receipt, and she gave me a pen. She had me write the name of it on the back of the receipt, where she can buy it from, how much it costs, and everything. And yeah, she just loved it. This is somewhat of a polarizing scent, and I don't think that everybody can pull it off, but I don't even think I can pull it off, to be honest with you. I just happen to be wearing it. It's from the house of Mancera, and it's called Roses and Chocolate. There's another fragrance by Montal called Chocolate Greedy. You might be able to get the same success rate or the same compliment rate that you would with this one. Just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. It kind of smells like a Ferrero Rocher chocolate. Very nice, rich, heavenly, decadent chocolate smell. And yeah, I got a really nice compliment wearing this one. I will continue to wear it, just maybe not so much casually. You know, I was wearing it casually, had good luck with that, but basically the name entails exactly what you get from it: roses and chocolate. More of an emphasis on the chocolate though. So that was number 4. Number 3 on my list is a fragrance that I have gotten some of the most compliments out of any other fragrance in this list, obviously, but this is one that I've been wearing maybe even since I was in high school, or maybe I got this one when I was in college. And I was wearing this to work one day, and the most memorable compliment that I've received wearing this one is, I was wearing it to work and I was in the back and I was making a gallon of paint, you know, in the paint dispenser, and my female coworker comes in the back of the room and she grabs a paint dispenser next to mine, and I guess as she walked past me, she got a whiff of the fragrance that I was wearing, and she goes, you smell so good. And I turned to her and I'm like, oh, thanks, you know? And, you know, I always get complimented wearing this fragrance, so I got happy, but it was kind of expected at the same time. And then she goes, you're wearing this fragrance, right? And she guessed it. And I'm like, wow, her nose is better than mine. And this is when I first started getting into fragrances, about like 4 years ago. And I'm like, wow, her nose is better than mine. How does she know? And then I go, how do you know? She goes, oh, it was my boyfriend's favorite fragrance. It's my favorite fragrance. I used to wear it. I used to buy it for him every year for Christmas, but now we broke up. So, you know, that was kind of like a backhanded compliment, but other than that, you know, I've worn this to parties, people ask what I'm wearing, people always say I smell good, and this is one that never, honestly, I can say it's never failed to get me a compliment, and you probably share that same insight. So this is from the house of Giorgio Armani, and this 1996, I want to say, composition by Alberto Morillas is called Acqua di Gio. So Acqua di Gio by Giorgio Armani, great aquatic fragrance, a little salty, unisex, inoffensive, white florals with a lime introduction and aquatic tinge. Overall, great fragrance. Never failed to get me a compliment. Number 3 on my list, Acqua di Gio by Giorgio Armani. Number 2 on my list is a more recent acquisition, and I would have never expected this fragrance to make this list. I was wearing this fragrance one day when I was getting ready to go out on a date with my girlfriend, and I wanted to get her flowers just because. And instead of going to a florist where it's usually very expensive, there's this guy by my local supermarket who actually sells dozen roses out of a shopping cart. So I ended up making a trip out there, and he's not there all the time, so I was really praying and I had my fingers crossed. I was like, I hope this guy is there. I get to the parking lot, he's nowhere to be found. I'm like, man, I hope I didn't just miss him. And I go up to the security guard who was patrolling the area, and I go, excuse me, did you happen to see the flower guy here today? Was he here at all today? And he goes, yeah, actually, you just missed him by a half an hour. He left like a half an hour ago. And I'm like, all right, thank you. And I'm getting ready to walk away, and he goes, well, if you want, I know the supermarket here sells flowers. I don't know how much they're going to be. They might not be as cheap as the ones that he's selling, but I know they sell flowers. I'm like, well, thank you very much for that. I'll go and check them out right now. So I was getting ready to make my way into the supermarket when he goes, do you mind just telling me what cologne are you wearing? And I tell him what I'm wearing, and he goes, do you mind writing that down for me? He really liked the way that it smelled. So he's checking his pockets for like a pen and, you know, a writing utensil, a piece of paper. He doesn't have anything on him. I'm checking my pockets. I was wearing my coat. This was back in November. I didn't have anything on me at the time either. So he goes, I know it's going to sound crazy, but do you mind texting it to me? And I'm like, a perfect stranger is asking me to text him the name of my cologne. So I'm like, yeah, sure. So I texted him the name of my fragrance, and I thought that was going to be it for the night. But I meet up with my girlfriend, and we go to this restaurant that we frequent, and it's an Italian restaurant right across the street from where we live. And the people know us there, we're regulars, and they sit us down, and they sit us down next to like this middle-aged Hispanic couple. And I don't know if they were married, could be boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, but they sit us down, and all of a sudden the husband or the guy turns around, he goes, wow, I love your perfume. What are you wearing? So 2 times in the same night, and I go, oh, this is what I'm wearing. And he turns to his wife and he goes, that's what I want for Christmas. So she turns around, she procures a piece of paper and a writing utensil from her bag, has the husband pass it to me, ask me to write down what the name is, and then they're like, oh, can you buy it at Macy's? I'm like, no, you have to go to New York. You know, you can't find this everywhere. I tell them the price, they like gasp, you know, they get a little scared, but Anyway, I'm going on and on about this one. Number 2, again, like I said, never expected it to make this list, but it has. Number 2 from the house of Xerjoff, and it's called More Than Words. Great fragrance. I've gotten so many compliments wearing this fragrance. Beautiful patchouli-based fragrance. It does have a rose-oud combo, but it's not traditional. It does do things a little bit differently. It's quite spicy. It has a good resinous sweet dried down with vanilla and labdanum. Really sweeten things up, and it's a beast. So if you're going to wear it, make sure you do like 2 sprays because you might choke somebody out wearing this fragrance. So number 2 on my list, More Than Words by Xerjoff. And lastly, thank you for bearing with me, number 1 on my list, this fragrance, I know every time I wear it, I'm gonna get a compliment on it. I don't even need to think about it. This is, as the fragrance bros have put it, this is a dumb reach, right? This is the fragrance that, you know, is kind of like your signature. You fall back on it, you know, it's your plan A and your plan B. So with this fragrance, I remember one day I was wearing it at work, at my new job, at my teaching job, and one of the secretaries walks past me and she goes, "Wow, is that you that smells so good?" And, you know, I'm trying to retain my humility, and I'm like, I hope so. You know, I didn't say yes, but I'm like, I hope so. She keeps walking. About a minute later, she starts walking in the opposite direction. She passes by me again, and she goes, "That is you that smells so good. What are you wearing?" I tell her what I'm wearing. She goes, "Where can I buy it? I want to buy it for my husband." I write it down for her and everything. On a separate day, the attendance coordinator at my job is standing next to me, and we were both doing hall duty at the cafeteria, and she's standing next to me and she starts making her way closer and closer to me, and she goes, "You know, if I get too close to you, I'm not trying to be creepy or anything, but I just love the way that you smell." And then on another occasion, another one of the ladies who works on my job goes, "You know, I was talking about you the other day. We were chasing down the security guard or the hall monitor," and she goes, "You know, we thought that he was the one who was wearing this fragrance until we decided that, you know, you were the only other guy in the room, and he said he wasn't wearing anything, so we concluded it was you who was wearing this fragrance, and it stayed in the elevator and we could smell it in the elevator." And she's like, "I was home and I was talking with my boyfriend about it, and then my boyfriend was getting mad at me. He was like, 'So is that what you do at work? You just smell other guys' colognes?'" And yeah, just the compliments that I've received wearing this fragrance are through the roof. I know every time I wear this one, I'm gonna get complimented on it. This one is not gonna come as a surprise to anyone, just like my number 3. This one is from the House of Creed, and it's called Aventus. Beautiful collaboration between father and son, 6th and 7th generation Olivier Creed and Erwin Creed. This is a pineapple-based fragrance with a contemporary masculine tinge, added by that birch tar. It dries down to that very sensual rose and jasmine combo. Then it has that vanillic undertone with ambergris and the woods and everything. Beautiful fragrance, fruity in the introduction, not traditional at all. It has the pineapple, the apple, the blackcurrant. Beautiful blend of notes, never fails to get me a compliment. Number 1 on my list is Aventus from the House of Creed. So guys, there you have it. I'm sorry for talking so much, but I wanted to share a compliment that I have received with each one of these fragrances. If you own or have tried these fragrances, please let me know what you think by leaving a comment down below. So these are my top 10 most complimented fragrances for the year of 2014. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to shoot me a message. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. As always, please don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe for future videos and frequent giveaways. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Steven with another fragrance review from Red Adolescence. See you soon.